Hi, everyone. I am Amy Kiefner with Inspired You Coaching and Consulting. And today I have as my interviewee, Andy Smith with the Sangamon County Sheriff's Department and in the Detective Division. So welcome, Andy. Thank you for joining me this morning.
Pleasure to be here. Nice to see you. Hello, everybody.
Yeah. Let's talk about your journey into becoming a law enforcement detective. I know it's been a while, so let's talk about from the very beginning.
Yeah, so currently I'm assigned in the Detective Bureau. I'm a detective. We have about 7 or so of us that work cases full time, and I had to work up. And this is something that I was selected and had many years on the streets in the patrol division. So I'll go all the way back, kind of where I started and got my beginning, which led me here to the Sheriff's Office, which is a great agency. It's been a perfect fit for me. And they've been so supportive of all of the wide variety of things that I like to do. So I graduated college in 2010, always having the desire to be here in Springfield as a police officer. It's where I'm born and raised. And I wanted to get back here to be closer to family. And my wife is also from here. So in 2010, I graduated from Southern Illinois University, Edwardsville, which a lot of you will remember, a pretty hard time in terms of the economy. So police agencies weren't doing a whole lot of hiring. And if they were, that was only for very few positions, and there would be hundreds of men and women at these departments testing to get hired. So it was pretty discouraging. So it was kind of a hard time to get on. I ended up getting hired in 2010. So I graduated that spring. That following December in 10, I got hired by Missouri Board of Probation and Parole, a division of Missouri Department of Corrections. So for 2 years, I worked as a probation and parole officer, and it gave me wonderful experience sitting down across the desk from these folks on supervision. Really getting to practice and get such a great foundation of interviewing and just interpersonal communication skills in general. But I finally got my break in 2013. By chance, ran into a guy who introduced me to a guy who said, "Hey, I'm getting ready to leave the Riverton Police Department. I got hired by the Illinois State Police. You should think about applying." And I said, "Well, actually, I started my application, but it's not quite complete." Well, he says, "The applications are due in about 2 hours." This was a Friday afternoon. So I go screaming out of there, got my my application done and notarized just in the nick of time, and got to Riverton in record time and hit it off with the chief. And he ended up hiring me for a full-time position in 2013. So I was about 25 years old, and Riverton put me through the police academy. So I went through a 3-month academy at the Illinois State Police, and then worked there full time for 2 years. And that police academy training and experience as a police officer working in a smaller village made me a stronger candidate here for the sheriff's office, because with that training, they don't have to put me through the police academy again. I've already received my state certification. So I'm much more of an attractive candidate in that sense. And then I went through their field training program here, which is when you're partnered up with an experienced veteran officer who's gone through certification courses to be a trainer. And I successfully completed that, which is normally a 3 or 4 month program to make sure you have what it takes to be able to perform in the field and do the duties of a police officer. And so that was 2015. I spent about 5 years on patrol, and I was lucky enough to get selected for our detective bureau 10 months ago. So here in my current duty, we investigate all types of crimes, most of which come in on patrol. So you can think of it as your beat cop. They come out and respond, and if the call for service requires, they'll write a report, or if a crime's been committed, they'll write the report. We're able to see all the reports that come in, and we follow up on those. So I've worked anything from homicides, sexual assaults, thefts, burglaries, robberies, home invasion. And it's been a very, very good experience. And I work with some really, really excellent people and have phenomenal supervisors. And they're basically my extended family. A lot of ups and a lot of downs, and extremely professional, smart guys. Um, Amy, you want me to touch on some of the other things I'm able to do here? Or will we get to that in a minute?
Yeah, what I'd like to know, Andy, is how did you know that you wanted to be in law enforcement?
Okay. It's hard to pinpoint because the passion and desire was always there, even from a boy, elementary age. It was always there, and I was so fascinated. And it makes me think back to Friday evenings of a young man going to my grandma's house and listening to her police scanner. And I don't know how it started with my grandma, but then my mom also kind of had the interest too. And so I was just kind of born into it. And that's how we would spend fun family time. And we would all stop talking when something went out and would listen to it. And so I would kind of pick up on stuff, and the interest just continued to develop from there. And I never lost that desire. For me, it was always this interest and this sense of wanting to serve people and to help people in need, and to bring encouragement and a voice of reason into a lot of folks who are having, it's their time of crisis, or for a lot of these folks, it can be the worst day of their life. And you can come in and you can bring things down and settle the storm, and try to encourage folks and help them get to a solution, or help keep people safe, to help them. And there's been so many examples I've had over my career, these moments where it's better than paycheck, much more fulfilling or satisfying than a paycheck could ever bring. And it's been a great opportunity, and I've been able to do some really neat things. So it always came back to wanting to help people. And here I am today, about almost 10 years into law enforcement, 7 or 8 specifically policing. And that's what still charges my batteries and gets me going, is helping people.
That's so awesome. And you're such the right person for it. I wish there were more of you
Thank you.
in this field. So you decided that you wanted to get into law enforcement. Tell me about the schooling that was required to become a police officer.
Okay. So at the time, I was a 2006 high school graduate, a 2010 college graduate, like I mentioned. So at that time, it was kind of hit and miss with what agencies required college. Some were bachelors, some were associates, and some were high school diploma. But I had a desire to go to college, and I wanted to get my bachelor's degree after high school. I thought it would help me be a better candidate. I could be more educated and just have a better, more diverse understanding of the occupation. So, and I knew I wanted to study criminal justice. So I ended up going to Western Illinois University for my freshman year. Western Illinois has a reputation of having a really, really strong law enforcement program. So that was my college of choice. So I ended up doing Western for 1 year into their law enforcement program, and it wasn't my cup of tea. I don't want to talk bad about the university. There's great people there, but it just wasn't for me. Macomb to me was kind of boring, and I just didn't feel connected, and I didn't feel like I had a similar interest with that many people. Things just didn't align. So I looked over to SIU Edwardsville, to where my sister was an upperclassman studying business and really enjoyed the school. So I had some insight into the Edwardsville Metro East area from her, and knew that she was having a good experience and meeting good people, and the school had a very good reputation. And lo and behold, they had a criminal justice program, and state school to state school, I was able to transfer all of my credits. So it was going to be a really seamless transition. And in fact, I remember a course that SIU Edwardsville had, or a little summer meeting called Transformation. And it was for all incoming transfer students who had either gone to another state school or community college or whatever. So I was able to meet other transfer students as well. So I could kind of see, oh man, I'm certainly not, the only one that's changed my mind here, and that's okay. It's okay to change your mind, whether it's small scale, medium scale, or big scale, and ended up loving Edwardsville. Their criminal justice program isn't huge. So I would have, maybe for example, I had one professor that I ended up having for 3 different courses. So it was a nice, like small to medium sized department. I knew all my professors on first name basis, and most of them knew me, at least by my junior and senior year. And it was just a really good fit. And I loved Edwardsville. Their campus is beautiful. It's super close to St. Louis. So loved the college.
Did you do internships during your school program?
Yes, required internship. Most of the time happens your senior year, spring semester. So that last semester. Now let me quickly tell you where I think Western really gets this right. And in fact, we recently had a Western Illinois student here for our internship. What I really like about them is that is all you do that spring semester. You are full-time. You're basically like a full-time employee with whatever police department or wherever you're doing your internship. Full-time, no other classes. Edwardsville, I still had to take other classes. I didn't so much like that. I think it's best to be full-time, all the way in, fully immersed in your internship experience to get that much more out of it. So the Western intern program, they get a lot more hours, significantly more hours out of their internship program than what I got at Edwardsville. Mine was done with the Illinois State Police in Collinsville. At the time, I thought I wanted to be an Illinois trooper, and loved my internship experience. They treated me phenomenally and would always welcome me into whatever they were doing. I got to see some really neat stuff. So those internships are so valuable. It gives you hands-on real world experience to either one, confirm, yes, this is what I want to do, or for some folks, and it happens like, oh, this isn't what I thought it would be, and they can change their mind. And that's absolutely okay, because we have the rest of our lives to work. So yeah, I had a great internship. In my scenario, it confirmed that this is what I wanted to do, and really had a great experience.
You mentioned that you've done a few different things too. So can you elaborate a little bit on all the different opportunities that someone who wants to get into law enforcement has, from street cop to detective?
Yep. Most of the time, your police agencies, you'll start off in patrol, working the street, so to speak. And that was my case. Here at the sheriff's office, we're a really nice medium-sized department to where there's a lot of other opportunities. We have 2 canine handlers. We have 1 assigned to DUI enforcement right now. We've got the detective bureau, which is what I'm in. Back in the day, we used to have full-time folks for community outreach, what we called crime prevention, and then they had traffic enforcement. That's all they did. It's go out, whether it was radar or handle accidents. SWAT team, crisis negotiations team, which is what I'm on, one of my favorite things to do. Synonymous with hostage negotiations, but we got away from that verbiage. So we're crisis negotiations unit. Our team is comprised of sheriff's office folks. We have a UIS police officer. We have a Chatham police officer. And actually, we have the Menard County Sheriff on our team, because we're fortunate enough, we're able to, our services for Sangamon County and Menard County. And that's one of my favorite things to do, the negotiations. So we used to have bicycle patrol. I was talking to one of my friends who's a Springfield police officer over the weekend. He's on their boat patrol unit. So he goes out and helps keep like Springfield safe. Springfield police, they have neighborhood police officers. So those are folks that are assigned a specific area of the city, and they go out and they do the community outreach or work with the business folks or other stakeholders in their area. And it's a really neat thing. So most of our stuff here, normally you have to have a couple years on to be able to apply to get into these specialty units. One of the things I also did on patrol, I was an ID tech, which is some crime scene services. So that's something that now I'm adding to and trying to get additional training in the detective bureau, because I still like it. And it's an important part of what we do. So really like the crime scene stuff, really like the crisis negotiation stuff. And then in our detective bureau, I'm working a little bit of everything right now. So a lot of places to move around.
Do a
The
lot of
sheriff,
those come with special training too, Andy? Do you have to go into certain classroom stuff, or is it on the job training?
yep. So we have all types of continuing education. Some is mandatory. But in terms of the specialization stuff, my crisis negotiation school was 1 week long, and the FBI put that on here in Springfield. It was a phenomenal course. My ID tech training, the crime scene stuff, when I was on patrol, I went through our in-house course, which is a week long. And then I will continue to add to that whenever stuff comes available. So we have phenomenal stuff in Illinois. Sometimes opportunities out of state come available, and in the digital age, we can log on and just see a plethora of stuff. And now we're getting used. We're so well versed in virtual training. That's opened the doors even more to be able to do it here at the comfort of your office or at home on your recliner. So the virtual stuff has really revolutionized it too, and has made that much more available to us. The K9 program is very intense, several months long. They have to certify. Yeah, the SWAT officers have a course that they go through, so they have their certifications. So a lot of ways you can specialize, hone in on stuff, and it's really neat.
I love that. What are some of the challenges of being in law enforcement? I mean, we know, first of all, I applaud everybody in blue for what everybody does. And
Thanks.
so tell me some of the challenges from your perspective.
Yeah, culturally, we're an interesting part right now, and it's very unfortunate because the overwhelming majority of police officers are such incredible people, and there can be bad apples in every profession, and that's just the unfortunate reality. And right now, because of the hyper focus on some of these events that make the headlines and stir up the controversy, it puts us under a microscope and to be scrutinized even more. But it's the moments, it's the good moments, and I've seen so many that don't get the recognition. A quick story: I was on Stanford Avenue probably 2 years ago, and I saw the city police car in the Casey's parking lot. So I decided to pull in the end to check on her and just to see what she's doing, number one, but most importantly, number two, to make sure that she was okay. And this officer with Springfield Police Department had her own debit card at the pump, out of her own pocket, was paying for gas for somebody that didn't have the resources at that time. And it just blew me away. And I have countless stories like that. And that is really what's happening in our community. That type of stuff and those type of police officers. That's an accurate representation of how the overwhelming majority of us actually are. So it's a hard time to be prejudged because of some of the stuff that's scrolling through our headlines. But I use that to motivate me to get out to the community, to one conversation at a time or one interaction with a kid at a time, to show them that, number one, we're real people. I'm a father, I'm a brother, I'm a son. This is just what I do for a living. We're good people that care about our community. You have to be able to keep your cool in the midst of chaos. I've had people that have gotten, nasty with me. Some of the folks we deal with are affected by alcohol or drug or mental health, and you have to be able to deal with that and not take things personally. They don't know who I am. They see a uniform and a badge, and they're speaking to the profession. Some of them that might be frustrated, or there's been times I've met folks that have had bad interactions in the past with the police, and I say, give me a chance. Let me try to change your mind. Or there's been times I kind of use this restart trick. If something's off on a bad foot and somebody might just start to get kind of nasty with me at the very beginning, I said, hold on. I said, this isn't right. You're not treating me right. This isn't productive. Said, I'm going to give you an opportunity. There's been times that I'm going to go back to my car. If I've pulled somebody over, I'm going to go back to my car and we're just going to kind of hit the restart button. I'm going to come back up here and we can start it again. And it's worked almost every time. So you have to be able to think logically and be even keel and not let personal emotions get into things, because I have seen it where guys are letting it's getting to them personally. No, it's just a job. They're just speaking to the uniform. And we deal with so many folks, like I mentioned, with the mental illness, or they're impaired by alcohol or drugs. And they don't even really mean what they're saying. But we also have to be utility players too. And we can get called to one thing and we might be breaking up a disturbance between a boyfriend or girlfriend. And then the next moment you could go to a call to where you're helping somebody who's broken down on the side of the road. So your mentality can shift so much throughout the shift. You really never know what's coming, what that dispatch center is getting ready to send you to. So we wear so many different hats.
Which the public doesn't know about, right? Like you just said, I think that we're not educated enough to know what the day-to-day ins and outs of being in law enforcement is. And so I love this conversation even more than just educating somebody about this.
Yeah.
You mentioned that, this whole like person, being able to think on your feet and everything. Do they teach any of that to you in schools or in any of these classrooms about how to behave that way? Or is that just your innate natural personality, which I know it is, but.
Thank you. Yeah. So it's a really, really good personality attribute, to have that discipline and that self-control. But this is one of the main reasons why you will see a paramilitary style in some of the police academies, which was the case in my experience. Illinois State Police, paramilitary, I believe modeled after Marine Corps, which pretty much sets the standard for this stuff. So it is boot camp style, and it is lining up in formation. And their main things are to teach, assess, and correct. And our drill instructors, so to speak, they get up in your face. They're yelling at you. If you can't handle it in the police academy, they want to be able to weed the people out that aren't going to be able to handle it in the street. And that's the whole concept. So you're kind of tested in that sense there, and they just put you through some really, really challenging stuff physically. So your body has to be just as disciplined and sharp as your mind is. So I mean, it really takes everything. You have to have it, and you have to be able to know how to control it. So that's why you'll see some of your police academies, which is a majority of them, that will be kind of intense in that regard.
What is something that you wish you would have known that nobody told you about becoming a police officer, becoming a law enforcement officer?
Well, one of the things is it doesn't just affect me. Police officers' spouses, in my case, my wife, they are in it and they're invested just as much as we are almost. When I was working, the evening shift, I was working 2:30 p.m. to 11:30 p.m. So think about it. And I have 2 daughters, and our third's on the way very, very soon here. So we would work 5 days on and then get a 3-day weekend. So for those 5 evenings, my wife was basically a single parent. And that's happening all across the country and all across the world. These police officers' spouses, they are the real heroes. And they do a good job addressing that. There's classes and stuff that you can go to with your spouse or with your family. And it's very important stuff because we go through a lot emotionally and physically. And I've seen some really sad stuff. I've been through some really messed up things that have kind of, they've affected me. You can't unsee some of the things that we do, or you can't undo, some of the things that we have to do to keep people safe. So man, they really, really support us. So that can't go understated. That's very, very important. And something I want to make sure that we discussed a little bit when we were getting ready in terms of the education side is we're seeing, because of everything going on, I think being one of the major factors, we're starting to see much fewer people come out and apply. So 11 years ago when I did it, when I told you a couple hundred people for one or two positions, now we are seeing completely opposite. And that's happening nationally too. Very few people wanting to get into this. Where was I going with that?
Well, while you think on that thought, what I wanted to say is that living in Chicago and hearing sirens all the time coming down a busy street outside of Wrigley Field, all I can think about is you guys get that call and you have no idea what you're going to walk into.
Yeah.
And then your families are just praying and trusting that you're going to come home that night. Right.
Yeah.
So I just can't imagine what that is like for all of you. And that's why I applaud everything that you guys do, because that's all I think about when I hear these sirens is the families and you and what you're going to walk into.
Thank you.
And then, then I'm watching a video where people in Chicago are jumping on the cop cars and dancing and I feel like their hands are tied. A lot of stuff here in this city, being as large as it is and how crime's gotten out of control. So but
I had had those conversations with my wife when I was working patrol, or even here, I can be tied up for a couple hours. You never know when something's going to happen. But even more so on patrol, I said, if I don't answer, if you're trying to get a hold of me and I can't answer for a couple hours, I might be out doing something, completely unable to get back with you. And I said, here's the deal. If you're really worried and you think something's wrong, here's the number to the non-emergency dispatch number, and you can say who you are and they'll tell you what's going on. And there was one time where she was so scared, she couldn't get a hold of me for several hours. And she did do that. She had to call the dispatch center because she was so concerned. And they said, okay, he's on a call, everything's fine. And it put her at ease. So you're right. You hear those sirens, you don't know what's going on, or we can get called to something that you think, and you hear these sad stories on the news, or some of the training videos that are out there available, even on YouTube, a lot of good training stuff. You never know what you're getting into, and you might think it's something very simple, but it can turn at any time. I think the point earlier I was trying to make, I got a lot of advice of folks saying, hey, you don't have to study criminal justice. A lot of the times the departments that did have that education requirement, which by the way, the sheriff's office has done away with the college requirement and has done things like loosen up the tattoo policy and that sort of thing to help deal with these low numbers that we're getting, to help encourage the recruitment and do what we can to keep up with it. But I went ahead and studied criminal justice. I was so passionate about it. I knew I had to spend those 4 hard years in college, putting in the time and the effort and writing the papers and the exams. I wanted it to be something I was passionate about. And I thought it would help me from the education sense, and that it would diversify me, because we got into a lot of history of policing and theory and some of the research and data analysis and that sort of stuff. So I thought it was really beneficial. But I'm about 8 years into it now on the policing side. And part of me wishes maybe I would have studied education, would have listened to those people. And they were well-meaning people. Many of them, their basis for that encouragement was, what if something happens, even physically, to where you can't do the job anymore? Or what if you decide that it's not for you? I'm at a point to where I still love what I do, but I get out in the community a lot and do a lot of speaking and speak with a lot of youth and do school presentations and that sort of thing, to where I think, an education degree would have been pretty beneficial. So I kind of go back and forth, but really we're starting to see the trend to where the college requirement is just being done away with. Practically speaking, your hands-on stuff to be able to do this job in the field, that's what the police academy is for. And in case I didn't mention it the first time through, I went through a 3-month. You can see some fluctuation, or as legislation goes one way or the other, it can be added to and more requirements, whether it's state or federal. But I was just a straight up 12-week program. So that's where you learn the hands-on stuff. And then your field training, which is one of the things that I did, I eventually became certified to be a field training officer to evaluate, train, and help newer officers. That's where you are putting, making sure you know how to apply your state and federal law, mainly state statutes, into the situations that we respond to, making sure you have an understanding of your specific department policy and procedure, and that you can appropriately apply that to what you're doing, because it's so diverse with what we do. There's so many different things that we have to be trained and ready to know what to do.
So what advice would you give to someone who's watching this, who's even contemplating this field?
Mhm. I think you cut out just a little bit at the beginning.
Oh, I'm sorry, Andy. Okay, what
No
advice would
problem.
you give to anyone who's even contemplating
Yeah.
this field of law enforcement? What would you give them?
The greater the challenge grows, and the greater some of our opposition can make us look like we're bad people, the greater the need is for good people to rise up and to get into this. But you have to be sure that it's what you're called to do. It has to be a calling. It's a very, very tough job. It requires a lot mentally, emotionally, and physically. And you will see some stuff that the average citizen or the general public won't see. So you have to be ready, that you can handle that, and that you have that you have your family support, and that you have your moral compass in check, and that you never lose sight of what you got into this profession to do. And for me, that was to help people. And I'm really, really charged right now to try to catch the youth as they are youth, and to show them that police are good people. And so I love working with kids. But it's very, very, very rewarding profession.
Is there a way to shadow a police officer, Andy, or is there a personality test that you are given to make sure before you even go down this path of that you are fit for this?
Yeah, we have a citizens ride along program, which is open to anybody and everybody. You're vetted a little bit, and you have to make sure that it would be a safe arrangement for everybody involved. But I've taken friends through. I've had members of the media come and ride with me when they're doing stories for us. But yeah, one of the great things that the sheriff's office does is our citizens ride along program. And that's for transparency and for interested folks to come out and really see what it's like to be out and about. And then our internship program, of course, and then the community outreach that we do. I'm a very, very big advocate of networking, which is of course a huge thing of what you're doing, Amy, with this wonderful programming and channel. And it's something I tell my teenager. I said, get out, talk to people, job shadow, get out and do it, because it's those conversations and those connections that you make that will give you real life insight into it. Yeah, so it's really, really valuable stuff. Getting to know people. Of course, with police agencies, you have city cops, county cops, state cops, and then a lot of your federal law enforcement agencies, your FBI, DEA, which is drug enforcement, ATF, which is alcohol, tobacco, firearms, man, even postal inspectors. So there's a lot. So always be relational minded with this, and get out and meet folks, exchange business cards, exchange emails, go out to coffee, go out to lunch. It's amazing the right doors will open, the wrong ones always close, but you never know what will come out of meeting people and meeting them for lunch or going golfing or whatever. So just get out and meet people and have those conversations and ask them what it's like, and very valuable. And I've done that. My parents kind of showed me the value in that. And now I'm doing it with my own kids. So
So great. That's exactly why I started this channel. I just feel that this is my way of saying, here's somebody to listen to about something you might be interested in, and then following up with you. Maybe I'll give some contact information if
yeah,
possible, if anybody has any questions. But yeah,
yeah.
it doesn't, keeping connections, meeting connections, like you said, is so important. Any
Yes,
last nuggets, Andy?
very much. We need good people to come out and do this. Um, I've had incredible experiences. Um, I've been a part of, through what I do here with the sheriff's office, police officer, we've been able to change people's lives, been able to save people's lives. I've seen it. Been able to hook up community resources for people who are suicidal and on the verge of homelessness in the coldest parts of winter. And because of what we do here, we have a lot of discretion with what we do, a lot of freedom and flexibility. And we're able to, I've been a part of things. We get a suicidal veteran hooked up with resources here, and now he's thriving with a job. And that's not kudos to me. That's kudos to a great department that we have and the great resources that we have in this community. And it's amazing to be a part of that and help bridge the gap for some of these people. So if you want to help people and to be out and about, and for every day to be a different day and a new adventure, and to have some really cool opportunities, we can serve and interact with the public in so many different ways. This summer, now that the restrictions are opening up, Amy, doing so many cool events, block party over this weekend, Juneteenth at Comer Cox Park coming up here in a few weeks. We're going to have a cookout for the veterans in July. So many neat things, the giving back, doing the things for other people, which I know all of you have had, that ends up doing more for you than what you're doing for them. And they're all better. It's all better than a paycheck. And you can be a part of that. So we have a great department here. There's other great agencies out there. But I work with some great people, some phenomenal supervisors. And even though it's challenging, this is very, very rewarding.
Well, Andy, I can't thank you for taking some time out of your day to do this with me, valuable time at that. And I thank you for your service. I thank your family, your extended family for every day, wondering how Andy's doing at work. So thank you for that.
Thanks.
We also have another cousin, Brett, who's in the field as well. So thank you for what you do. And I hope that more people like you are joining the force soon.
Thanks, Amy. Thanks for those kind words, for hosting me, and for what you're doing for the folks that you're serving through this.
Thank you. All right. Enjoy. Thanks, everybody.